The black, illusory fragrance, thick and viscous like ink, swirled within the cave. Amidst the dense fragrance, a figure sat quietly cross-legged on a stone platform. A faint, warm light shield surrounded him, subtly purifying the demonic energy embedded within the illusory fragrance that invaded his body. Beside the stone platform, Yin stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His gaze was fixed on Lin Dong's body, and his usually calm face now bore a solemn expression. Lin Dong had been in purgatory for 3 full months. Yin knew that time in purgatory was not the same as in the outside world. 3 months here could equate to several years, or even over a decade in purgatory. Although Lin Dong had only entered with his spiritual body, the passage of time inside purgatory was real. Every second, every minute, was something he truly experienced. His physical body had remained here for 3 months, but his spiritual body had endured over a decade. No one knew for certain what state Lin Dong was in within purgatory. Even Yin could not sense his condition. All he could do was use the power of the eternal phantom demon flower to construct purgatory, but he had no means to control it. Whether Lin Dong could break free would depend entirely on his own abilities. As Yin sighed inwardly, his eyes suddenly narrowed. He felt a buzzing sound coming from Lin Dong's body, an indication that the 2 ancestral talismans were reacting. Buzz, buzz. A silver-white spiritual energy emerged from Lin Dong's body, and his still body, which had been sitting for 3 months, trembled slightly. His closed eyes were filled with a serious expression. It seemed as though he was facing an immense danger. Spiritual energy overflowing. Is he trying to break out of purgatory? Yan's palm clenched into a fist. If Lin Dong had reached this stage, it meant he was at the final level of purgatory, the most dangerous place. If he failed now, he could suffer severe injury, and his spiritual body might even collapse. Buzz. The silver-white spiritual energy spread out from Lin Dong's body like a tidal wave, its power far surpassing what it had been before. Even the surrounding thick, illusory fragrance was pushed back by the force. At this moment, Lin Dong had clearly pushed his spiritual energy to its limit. However, judging from his expression, things still did not look optimistic. It seemed that the gatekeeper left by the Ancestral Talisman Master was indeed terrifyingly powerful. The spiritual energy around Lin Dong continued to surge for about half an hour, eventually beginning to fade away under Yan's increasingly tense gaze. This was a sign of excessive energy consumption. It was clear that Lin Dong was starting to fall behind. Lin Dong, hold on. This is the final step, Yin muttered, his hand gripping tightly. Sizzle. However, things didn't seem to be progressing in the direction Yin had hoped. The brilliant silver spiritual energy around Lin Dong continued to dim and retract, and once it completely dissipated, Lin Dong's spiritual body would shatter. Yan's face was taut as he watched this scene, his expression grave and tense. After a long pause, he finally let out a bitter sigh. Was failure really inevitable? Buzz. Just as Yin sighed, the last trace of silver spiritual energy finally faded and disappeared. At that moment, the light surrounding Lin Dong vanished completely. Yan's face seemed to age in an instant, and his eyes filled with despair. But just as Yan's face darkened, his expression suddenly changed. He looked down at his own body in surprise. If Lin Dong's spiritual body had shattered, then as the Ancestral Stone's controller, he should have immediately dissipated and returned to the Ancestral Stone. Why was he still here? Lin Dong still alive? Yan's gaze flickered as his mind trembled. He quickly raised his head, only to see 2 ancient talismans flashing on Lin Dong's body. These talismans circled around his body before shooting into the center of his brow with a whoosh. A dark thunder-like aura gathered at Lin Dong's brow, spinning wildly. A small crack tore open in his forehead, and beneath it, a mysterious eye, suffused with endless black light and thunder, slowly revealed itself. The crack widened, and the mysterious eye, glowing with both thunder and black light, fully materialized. Boom! An indescribable storm of spiritual energy erupted from Lin Dong's body, scattering the black illusory fragrance that surrounded him. The entire cave trembled violently, and cracks appeared in the cave's walls, which were made from special materials. This is... Yin looked at the mysterious eye of the ancestral talisman on Lin Dong's brow, filled with a crackling energy of thunder and dark radiance. A look of surprise crossed his face. As the spirit of the ancestral stone, he naturally had a deep understanding of the ancestral talisman. This eye of the ancestral talisman only appeared when the talisman master achieved an extraordinary level of affinity with their ancestral talisman. Throughout history, very few talisman masters have ever unlocked the eye of the ancestral talisman. To his surprise, Lin Dong had reached this stage at such a time. Moreover, Lin Dong's eye of the ancestral talisman clearly contained the powers of both the Devouring ancestral talisman and the Thunder ancestral talisman. The difficulty of manifesting such a combination was even greater. The eye of the ancestral talisman appeared for a moment and then quickly retracted, its light fading as Lin Dong's brow returned to a calm state once again. Bang! At the instant the eye of the ancestral talisman disappeared, a blinding silver-white beam of light erupted from Lin Dong's body. The beam pierced through the mountain above and shot up, breaking through the ground. The massive silver-white beam shot out of the celestial cavern and soared into the sky. The sight immediately drew the attention of all the strong members of the heavenly demon mink clan, who stared in awe at the light. Their expressions grew serious as they sensed a vast, ocean-like wave of spiritual energy emanating from it. This spiritual energy was so overwhelming that even the top-tier superpowers at the revolution stage would feel their hearts tremble. This spiritual energy. Has someone reached the Talisman Grandmaster realm? Incredible! To have cultivated spiritual energy to such a degree. But among our people in closed-door training at the Celestial Cavern, it seems no one has such powerful spiritual energy. A few of the guardians beside the Celestial Cavern watched in shock and murmured in confusion. It's Lin Dong. The leader of the heavenly demon mink clan spoke slowly, his face showing a trace of surprise. Clearly, he hadn't expected Lin Dong's spiritual energy to have broken through to the level of a Talisman Grandmaster in just 3 months. Incredible. The elder Zhu Li, who had been guarding the area, also expressed admiration. Although he was a top-tier expert at the reincarnation stage, his spiritual energy cultivation was far inferior to Lin Dong's. He had also once trained in spiritual energy but had given up. Thus, he understood just how difficult it was to cultivate spiritual energy to the level of a Talisman Grandmaster. This guy has finally reached this level. Little Mink also sighed, feeling a bit emotional. The naive young man who had just begun to touch upon spiritual energy back in Qingyang town had now truly advanced to the great completion stage on this path. The silver-white beam of light spread out in the sky, and within the warmth of the glow, Lin Dong's consciousness extended. Although his physical body remained inside the celestial cavern, his spiritual energy had now become his vision and sense of touch, allowing him to perceive everything in this world. He could sense the powerful auras rising from various places within the heavenly demon mink clan. In some hidden areas, there were several formidable auras. These were on par with Elder Zhu Li's strength. As Lin Dong's spiritual energy spread, he suddenly felt a shift in his mind. His gaze locked on the dark depths of the celestial cavern, where he sensed an even more astonishing aura, one stronger than even the clan leaders. Is it the one in the deepest part of the celestial cavern, in closed-door training? The silver-white light seemed to condense into a figure, and the eye of the ancestral talisman slowly reappeared on Lin Dong's brow. The darkness of the celestial cavern was instantly dispelled in his vision, as though he had pierced through space and looked deep into the innermost cave. In that cave, he saw a withered figure resembling dried bones, with pale hair spread throughout the entire cave. An ancient, almost forgotten aura emanated from him, making the very air feel as if it had aged. Just as Lin Dong focused on the cave, the nearly decayed figure suddenly opened its eyes, which had been sealed for what seemed like 1,000 years. The pupils glowed with a strange, brilliant silver light. The eye of the ancestral talisman? The silver eyes looked at the void in front of them, a trace of astonishment flashing across them. Then, they looked meaningfully at the empty space. With a flick of his sleeve, the space shattered in layers, severing Lin Dong's gaze entirely. As his vision was blocked, Lin Dong's body trembled slightly from afar, sensing a familiar wave of energy from the figure's silver eyes. This person's strength was clearly unfathomable, and Lin Dong couldn't help but wonder who this mysterious figure was. Is this the realm of a Talisman grandmaster? Lin Dong slowly withdrew his mind, relishing the strange sensation of peering into the world. He then spread his hands slowly. At this moment, he seemed to merge with the world around him. Lin Dong was immersed in this wonderful feeling. In a daze, it seemed as though his spiritual energy was spreading far and wide across the heavens and earth. At one moment, the space appeared to twist, and a thread of spiritual energy pierced through it, appearing in a completely unfamiliar place. It was an ancient wasteland, and at the far end of the wasteland stood a black palace. In the deepest part of the palace, he seemed to see a dark figure sitting cross-legged. The figure suddenly raised its head, and within its eyes, black holes swirled, as if they were devouring the heavens and earth. The image abruptly stopped. Lin Dong's mind quickly returned, and his heart began to beat rapidly. He knew that the wasteland and the ancient palace he had seen earlier were perhaps the devouring deity temple the nine-tailed spirit fox had once mentioned. And that dark figure was most likely the Lord of Devouring. The vast spiritual energy that had permeated the heavens and earth finally receded like a tide after a brief period, and within just a few breaths, the world once again returned to its peaceful state. In a cave somewhere within the celestial cavern, Lin Dong's tightly shut eyes slowly opened. His jet-black pupils showed no signs of spiritual energy surging. Instead, they held a depth like the night sky and a hint of confusion as if he hadn't fully adjusted yet. The quiet cave was bathed in soft light, the smooth stone walls still carrying the fragrance of earth. The tranquility made his body involuntarily relax. However, as Lin Dong stared at the calm surroundings, he felt a sense of unfamiliarity. Although his appearance hadn't changed, the expression in his eyes made it seem as though he had been disconnected from this world. Out in the world, only 3 months had passed, but in that lonely purgatory, he had spent over 10 years. It had not been a short period. During those years, he had never rested, constantly fighting against the brutal purgatory. Yin stood by quietly, observing Lin Dong's confused and unfamiliar expression without speaking, knowing that this was normal. He believed that Lin Dong would soon calm his mind and restore his memories to before he entered the purgatory. The candle flickered gently in the still cave. Lin Dong sat cross-legged on a stone platform, remaining silent for most of the day. Finally, he took a deep breath, and a familiar expression returned to his face. "How long has it been outside?" Lin Dong looked up at Yin, offering a faint smile. "Just 3 months," Yin replied. "Only 3 months." Lin Dong sighed with a complex expression. Who would have thought that these peaceful 3 months in the outside world could feel so long and cruel to him? "Well, you've made quite a bit of progress," Yin smiled, his gaze lingering on Lin Dong. He had clearly felt the immense spiritual energy that had surged from Lin Dong earlier. It was indeed the aura of someone who had entered the realm of a Talisman grandmaster. After working so hard for all these years, it would be rather embarrassing if you couldn't break through. Lin Dong stretched lazily, then leaped down from the stone platform. His eyes closed slightly as he felt the vast, endless spiritual energy in his mud pill palace. "I can only be considered at the minor Talisman Grandmaster stage for now. When you step into the great Talisman Grandmaster realm, even those strong enough to touch the reincarnation stage will no longer be your match." "That won't be easy." Lin Dong smiled faintly. Reaching this level of spiritual energy was already a monumental achievement, but advancing further would require immense effort. This time, he had relied on the power of the eternal phantom demon flower to break through to the minor Talisman Grandmaster stage in just 3 months. From a certain perspective, these 3 months had not been easy to endure. During this time, Lin Dong had lost count of how many times he had escaped death's grasp. "These things are useless now. Should we get rid of them?" Lin Dong glanced at the eternal phantom demon flowers in the cave. They were now withered, clearly drained of their power. However, these demon flowers were quite peculiar, and since they were no longer of any use, it was best to dispose of them completely. Yin had no objections. Since Lin Dong had achieved his cultivation goal, these items were no longer needed. Lin Dong smiled and, without making any other move, the eternal phantom demon flowers in the cave suddenly turned to ash and slowly drifted down. Let's go. It's time to leave. Lin Dong stretched lazily, not glancing back, and walked straight toward the exit of the cave. As Lin Dong walked toward the celestial cavern, he paused for a moment, his body slightly turning, his gaze directed toward the deepest part of the cavern. During his breakthrough to the Talisman Grandmaster realm, he had used the eye of the Ancestral Talisman to see a figure at the very depths. Though he didn't sense any particularly remarkable fluctuations from the person with the silver eyes, his keen intuition told him that this person's power was likely at an extraordinarily terrifying level. Even now, if he were to face them in battle, he would have no chance of victory. I really don't know which ancient monster survived from the past, Lin Dong muttered to himself, before turning around and slowly walking through the dark tunnel toward the outside of the celestial cavern. After walking through the tunnel for a while, warm sunlight finally shone down from the sky. Lin Dong stepped out and saw a tranquil mountain range stretching before him, giving off a majestic aura. The calm before him made Lin Dong feel a sense of intoxication. During the 10+ years in purgatory, he had never experienced such tranquility. You're finally out. A familiar yet distant voice suddenly reached Lin Dong's ears, and then a figure appeared beside him. A handsome, almost otherworldly face flashed before his eyes. Little Mink. Lin Dong gazed at the very familiar face, momentarily stunned, before breaking into a grin. He immediately stretched out his arms and hugged the figure tightly. The loneliness he had endured in purgatory had tormented him, and now, seeing these familiar faces, his heart was deeply moved. Hey, what are you doing? Little Mink was startled by Lin Dong's sudden action, but he could feel the deep affection in the hug. For a moment, his heart was also touched. They had met during their weakest times, protecting each other as they traveled together. That bond was stronger than brotherhood. Lin Dong quickly let go of the hug, and the smile on his face became more natural, as if he was slowly recovering from the memories of purgatory. Are you all right? Little Mink asked, giving Lin Dong a strange look. At this moment, Little Mink took the time to properly observe Lin Dong. Though it had only been 3 months, there was no visible change in his appearance. However, based on his familiarity with Lin Dong, he could sense something different in his eyes. It was as if Lin Dong had suddenly become much more weathered and profound. It felt as though Lin Dong hadn't merely been in seclusion for 3 months, but for 30 years. I'm fine, Lin Dong smiled, gently patting Little Mink's shoulder, which left the latter puzzled. Hee, young friend Lin Dong, congratulations on entering the Talisman Grandmaster realm. To reach this level of spiritual power at such a young age is extremely rare, even within our Heavenly Demon Mink clan. The clan leader of the Heavenly Demon Mink clan said, stepping forward and scanning Lin Dong with a peculiar look. Though their clan had some senior members with astonishing spiritual power, those individuals had reached their level after many years of accumulation. Someone as young as Lin Dong, who had reached the Talisman Grandmaster realm, was exceptionally rare. It was just a stroke of luck, Lin Dong shook his head. If it weren't for the power of the eternal phantom demon flower to construct that unique purgatory, he would never have been able to cross that terrifying gap. Even with Yan's help, it would have likely taken him several years to achieve such a breakthrough. If luck alone could get someone to the Talisman Grandmaster realm, then this realm wouldn't be so rare in the world. The clan leader of the Heavenly Demon Mink clan laughed. I think young friend Lin Dong must be a bit exhausted after his seclusion. Let him rest for a day or two, Elder Zhu, a high-ranking elder, also said with a smile. The Heavenly Demon Mink clan leader nodded, exchanged a few more words with Lin Dong, and then led his people away. During Lin Dong's seclusion, they had stayed right here without leaving. I'll take you to rest. You look a bit dazed, Little Mink said. Lin Dong nodded. He indeed needed some time to completely recover from the memories of purgatory and return to normal. In the next 2 days, Lin Dong stayed in the Heavenly Demon Mink clan. After a full recovery, he was finally able to shake off the brutal training he had undergone in purgatory, storing those painful memories deep in his mind. However, the immense spiritual power he had gained from purgatory still lingered in his mind, reminding him that the harsh training had not been without its rewards. On a lush mountain peak, Lin Dong sat cross-legged on the edge of a cliff. Oh! Yin was surprised upon hearing this, clearly not expecting Lin Dong to sense the presence of the Devouring Deity Temple. It seems the Devouring Deity Temple is hidden within a specially open space, but its exact location cannot be pinpointed. However, I can feel the increasingly chaotic and unstable energy in that space. So, I'm afraid that within a month, the hidden space where the Devouring Deity Temple is located will emerge. A month? That quickly? Yes, and when the Devouring Deity Temple emerges, the commotion will likely be huge. Even the strongest beings in the demon domain will feel it. Lin Dong narrowed his eyes. Once the Devouring Deity Temple emerges, it will certainly cause a stir. With the reputation of the Devouring Lord from ancient times, every force will likely covet what remains there. And now, not everyone knows that the Devouring Ancestral Talisman is in my hands. So, once the Devouring Deity Temple appears, it's unlikely that even the 4 dominant clans will stay calm. Although with my current relationship with the Dragon Clan and the Heavenly Demon Mink Clan, I don't worry about those two, but there are still 2 other dominant clans watching closely. More importantly, if the Purgatory forces get wind of it, they might also take some action. By then, surrounded by all these powerful forces, obtaining the Devouring Lord's inheritance will not be a simple matter. However, Lin Dong smiled faintly, a sharp gleam in his eyes. I won't let the Devouring Lord's inheritance go to you all. After 2 more days of rest, Lin Dong was ready to leave. The troubles within the Heavenly Demon Mink clan had been resolved, and once the clan leader of the Heavenly Demon Mink came out of seclusion, all the turmoil settled immediately. Furthermore, with the matter of Hao Jiuyo, the elders who had supported him before were now worried, fearing repercussions. Therefore, when it came time to elect a new clan leader candidate, they quickly sided with Little Mink, trying to make amends. This left no doubt that Little Mink would become the new leader. Since these matters were internal to the Heavenly Demon Mink clan, Lin Dong didn't interfere further. After reporting to the clan leader, he was ready to leave. Before departing, Little Mink followed him. According to him, with his father now in charge, there would be no further problems within the Heavenly Demon Mink clan. He had nothing to do here, and might as well follow Lin Dong to the Beast Battle domain. Lin Dong thought about it, and didn't reject him. After all, within this month, the Devouring Deity Temple would emerge, and the resulting commotion would be substantial. Having Little Mink along would make their team even stronger. 3 days later, Lin Dong and Little Mink arrived at Thunder Abyss Mountain. As they appeared above the mountain range, the heat emanating from the area startled both of them. In the mountains, vast plazas and palaces stood in clusters, and large defensive energy shields rose from the surrounding mountains, enveloping the entire area. This defensive formation, while not as powerful as the Heavenly Demon Mink clan's protective formation, was far more intricate and secure than Thunder Abyss Mountain's previous defenses. Moreover, in the sky, teams of armored troops patrolled, and below, the plazas were crowded with figures who seemed to be training. The low growls, filled with a murderous intent, resonated and spread, causing the very air to tremble. Wow, this setup is no joke, Little Mink remarked, eyes wide with surprise. He had been to Thunder Abyss Mountain before, but it felt like a poor, desolate place compared to now. Lin Dong nodded. With his spiritual energy having reached the Talisman grandmaster level, he didn't need to make a special effort to sense the powerful auras within the mountains. What surprised him most was that there were 5 individuals at the revolution stage here. 2 unfamiliar revolution stage experts. Lin Dong raised an eyebrow. He remembered that within the 4-elephant palace, only the Heavenly Dragon Demon Commander had reached the revolution stage. Even Little Yin had to rely on the Tiger's army to reach such a level. So where did these 2 new revolution stage experts come from? Could it be that even more revolution stage powerhouses are joining our 4-elephant palace? Lin Dong felt intrigued. Such experts, no matter where they went in the demon domain, could easily become the leaders of powerful forces. Yet, they were choosing to join the relatively unknown Four-Elephant Palace? This was interesting. Lin Dong smiled at little Mink and then swiftly darted toward the Four-Elephant Palace. Halfway there, their intrusion was detected by the patrolling team, and in an instant, dozens of powerful auras surrounded them. However, when the patrollers saw Lin Dong's figure, the wariness on their faces immediately shifted to respect. Lin Dong waved his hand at the Four-Elephant Palace experts who were about to salute, and the moment they bowed, their bodies suddenly froze, as if the primordial energy inside them had slipped beyond their control. This? The experts exchanged glances, each seeing the shock in the other's eyes. Especially the two leaders, both of whom were at the great completion of the Death Mystique stage. Though not top tier, their power was still formidable. Typically, a practitioner at the Revolution stage could easily subdue them, but to strip them of control over their own primordial energy was no simple feat. In just 3 months, Leader Lin Dong's strength has truly become more unfathomable. Where is Commander Yin now? Lin Dong asked as he swept his gaze over the area. Commander Yin is at the main peak's training ground, and the Heavenly Dragon leaders are also there. Today is the great day when Lords Zhou and Zhou are coming to join our Four-Elephant Palace. The patrol leader answered respectfully. Zhou? Zhou? Lin Dong raised an eyebrow. These two lords were once top experts in the Western Sands region. However, not long ago, the Western Sands was conquered by Mang Mountain, and their forces collapsed. Now, they seek refuge with our Four-Elephant Palace. After all, we are the only ones in recent years who have remained safe after confronting Mang Mountain, the patrol leader explained. Ah, they offended the Nine Phoenix clan, Lin Dong smiled faintly. Well, I have no particular fondness for the Nine Phoenix clan. If Zhou and the others are sincere in joining, I won't mistreat them. The patrol leader glanced toward the main peak, then dismissed his subordinates and approached Lin Dong, lowering his voice. Leader Lin Dong, although Lords Zhou and Zhou have come to surrender, they are said to be quite arrogant. They have even demanded to be ranked among the 5 great leaders of the Four-Elephant Palace. Upon hearing this, Lin Dong's eyes immediately sharpened, a cold smile appearing at the corners of his mouth. Were they here to surrender, or to seize positions? The reason he had granted the Heavenly Dragon Demon Commander and his companions such positions was due to their past achievements. But now these two who had suddenly appeared were demanding the same? Two strays from a fallen pack, and they dare make such demands? Truly clueless, little Mink scoffed before Lin Dong could even respond. The patrol leader, an old hand from Thunder Abyss Mountain, who had met little Mink before, immediately grinned and said, Lord Mink is right. Commander Yin has not agreed to them. He has been delaying them with excuses, saying that the decision will be made when Leader Lin Dong returns. Lin Dong nodded slightly. 2 powerful practitioners at the Revolution stage. This was a golden opportunity. If they could be brought under the Four-Elephant Palace's banner, their strength would significantly increase. No wonder little Yin hadn't sent them packing immediately. Let's go and see just what kind of abilities these two, who have been chased out by the Nine Phoenix clan, possess to make such a demand. Lin Dong smiled, then looked at the burly patrol leader. By the way, what's your name? My name is Huoyuan. When Commander Yin was still the Flame General of Thunder Abyss Mountain, I served under him, the patrol leader replied eagerly. Huoyuan, well done. Lead the way, Lin Dong said with a smile. This man could be promoted in the future. Yes, sir. Huoyuan's face flushed with excitement. He knew well that while the 5 great leaders were said to make decisions on all matters of the Four-Elephant Palace, the true deciding voice in case of disagreement belonged to Lin Dong, making him the highest authority among them, though most people didn't know this. Now, receiving Lin Dong's favor, he knew that as long as he remained loyal, his future in the Four-Elephant Palace would be bright. At the main peak of the Four-Elephant Palace, the training grounds. The training grounds were vast and crowded, teeming with people. Among the crowd, many high-ranking members of the Four-Elephant Palace had gathered, including Little Yin and the other leaders, making the event feel quite grand. Some powerful figures from the Four-Elephant Palace frowned slightly upon seeing this. Now that the palace's consolidation was complete, It was no longer the disorganized mess it once was. The increasingly strict palace rules had turned the four-elephant palace into a formidable force that couldn't be underestimated. Therefore, when they saw these people, still carrying a bandit-like aura, they felt somewhat displeased. However, despite their dissatisfaction, they didn't show it outwardly. Instead, they shifted their gazes to the four figures standing above the stairs. At the forefront stood Little Yin. Although his strength was only at the great completion of the death mystique stage, figures like the heavenly dragon demon commander and others knew that, in battle, Little Yin was no weaker than them. Plus, due to his connection with Lin Dong, they were very polite toward him. Little Yin gazed indifferently at the group before him, then turned his attention to the very front, where two figures stood lazily. Though they appeared much better off than their subordinates, a hint of arrogance could still be seen in their expressions. This is my four-elephant palace. If you can't control yourselves, perhaps I'll have the tiger devouring army remind you. Little Yan's sharp eyes swept across the field, and he spoke faintly. Roar. As soon as Little Yan's voice fell, the tiger devouring army, stationed around the plaza, let out a low growl. The sound was like a single entity, with dark, surging energy that quickly transformed into a ferocious black tiger in the sky, exuding a murderous aura that pierced the clouds. The group of over 100 people was visibly taken aback, their expressions slightly uneasy. Though they were no pushovers, compared to the military-like discipline of the tiger-devouring army, they felt like a disorganized rabble. Heh, Commander Yin, don't be angry. My subordinates are used to being carefree. Now that we're in a new place, they haven't adjusted yet. They'll be better in the future. A middle-aged man in gray at the front laughed and spoke. Brother Zhou is right. Another person beside him smiled and nodded, then looked toward Little Yin and said leisurely, But Commander Yin, I'm curious about the request we made. We are people of some standing in the Western Sands region. Now that we're sincerely joining the Four-Elephant Palace, I think giving us a leadership role should be fair, don't you think? Little Yan's brows furrowed slightly, and hesitation flashed in the eyes of the heavenly dragon demon commander and the others. Heh, Commander Yin, are you implying that you look down on the two of us? Zhou asked, smiling coldly. If that's the case, I think we should forget about joining. This place is too big for just the two of us, Zhou added with a mocking smile, waving his hand as if he were about to leave with his people. Heh, I don't think it's the Four-Elephant Palace looking down on you two. It seems more like you two are looking down on my Four-Elephant Palace. What kind of place do you think we are? You think you can join when you want and leave when you want? Just as Zhou moved, a faint laughing voice suddenly came from the sky, and countless eyes turned upward. Soon, they saw the figures of Lin Dong and his companion. Lin Dong, stepping through the void, looked at Zhou and Zhou with a playful gleam in his eyes, and a cold smile spread across his lips. According to the rules of the Four-Elephant Palace, how should those who look down on us be treated? Kill. The eyes of all the Four-Elephant Palace experts suddenly turned cold, and in unison, a sharp and chilling shout spread through the sky, filled with a murderous intent. Feeling this aura, Zhou and Zhou Li's expressions finally changed. The killing intent filled the air, so intense that it seemed to lower the temperature. The group, who had previously been smiling and joking, now wore faces full of fear. The casual smiles faded as they realized that the Four-Elephant Palace, unlike what they had imagined, wasn't desperate to welcome them. Zhou and Zhou Li were similarly startled by this change. They looked up at the two unfamiliar figures in midair, frowning slightly, obviously unsure of their identities. Big brother. Just as they were about to get angry, Little Yan's surprised voice made them freeze. Their eyes flickered as they turned to look at the thin, young figure. The only person in the Four-Elephant Palace whom Little Yin would call Big Brother was none other than Lin Dong, who rarely made an appearance. Brother Lin Dong, you've finally returned, said the heavenly dragon demon commander and his two companions, smiling as they spoke. However, as they did, their gazes couldn't help but linger on Lin Dong. Although they hadn't seen him for only 3 months, for some reason, they felt that Lin Dong was now vastly different from before. Previously, Lin Dong, though powerful in battle, was still only at the death mystique stage. Unless he was in combat, the heavenly dragon demon commander and his companions couldn't sense any oppressive aura from him. After all, they were genuine revolution stage experts. Lindong was able to make up for the difference in strength through various means, but the gap between them was still there. But now, when they looked at Lindong again, for some reason, their vast primordial energy seemed to slow down slightly, as though they were being pressed by some invisible force. And that pressure was clearly coming from Lindong. The three exchanged glances, and each saw the astonishment in the other's eyes. Big brother. Little Yin leaned over and glanced at Zhou and the others in the square. I know, Lindong nodded slightly, then said with a faint smile, revolution stage experts are indeed a great asset, but sometimes, if it's not suitable, they might instead burn down everything you've worked so hard to build. Zhou and his companions were clearly very prideful. These individuals had strength, but if they couldn't be controlled within the Four-Elephant Palace, their arrogance might lead to internal strife, causing the massive structure that had been painstakingly built to collapse. Therefore, Lindong understood that dealing with such proud individuals required absolute no tolerance. Otherwise, they would keep pushing their limits, and it would become even harder to suppress them later. Little Yin nodded in agreement. He understood this as well, but the strength of Zhou and his companions was undeniable. Even within the Four-Elephant Palace, if it came to a one-on-one battle, even the heavenly dragon demon commander and his companions would have difficulty defeating them completely. Because of this, using force to suppress their arrogance was no simple task. Leave it to me, Lindong smiled. His eyes flickered with an enigmatic glint. When the Four-Elephant Palace was founded, he and Little Yin didn't stand out in terms of raw strength compared to the other leaders. The reason he was able to suppress the three revolution stage powerhouses, Heavenly Dragon Demon Commander and his companions, was mainly due to his status as the elder of the Dragon Clan's Punishment Division and his astonishing combat abilities. Although, on the surface, the Heavenly Dragon Demon Commander and the others showed him great respect, deep down, there was inevitably some discomfort. The Demon Beast world revered strength, and Lindong's great completion of the Death Mystique stage strength still made them uneasy. Lindong had been aware of this before, but since he hadn't yet reached the necessary power to confront it, he had done nothing. But now, things were different. With his spiritual energy now at the Talisman Grandmaster realm, ordinary revolution stage experts were no longer his match in terms of spiritual power. This was the perfect time to fully impose his presence, both externally and internally. I presume this is Brother Lindong, right? I've heard much about you. Zhou and his companions slowly regained their composure. They looked at Lindong and cupped their fists in greeting with a smile. You're too kind. If there's anything lacking, please forgive me, but also understand the rules of the Four-Elephant Palace, Lindong replied with a slight smile. Of course, Zhou nodded, then his gaze shifted. But I hope Brother Lindong can understand the difficulties we face. We've brought our subordinates here, and if there's no place for them, we might have trouble explaining things to them. Those who were hunted down by the Nine Phoenix clan, fleeing for their lives, talking about face, doesn't that just invite laughter? Little Mink sneered, full of mockery. What did you say? Hearing this, Zhou and his companions' expressions instantly changed as they shouted angrily. Did you not hear what Lord Mink said? Little Mink's eyes suddenly turned cold, and with a step forward, an overwhelming aura of murderous intent spread through the sky. To shout like that in front of Lord Mink, you think you're qualified? The Nine Phoenix clan has chased you into this state. Do you think the Heavenly Demon Mink clan should still show you respect? The Heavenly Demon Mink clan? Zhou and his companions' faces froze in shock, their fury momentarily dissipating. They stared blankly at the beautiful but disdainfully smirking little Mink. For a moment, the words they wanted to say were stuck in their throats. Don't mind them, Lindong said with a gentle smile. My second brother's temper is like this. He is the candidate for the next clan leader of the Heavenly Demon Mink clan, so his personality can be a bit difficult. His words were slightly mismatched, but he hoped that Zhou and the others would understand the meaning behind them. Candidate for clan leader? Zhou Yi's eyes twitched, a sense of fear rising in his heart. They had merely offended an elder of the Nine Phoenix clan and had been reduced to such a miserable state. And now, the person before them was actually a candidate for the clan leader of the Heavenly Demon Mink clan? This position was many times more powerful than that elder. If they offended him, the entire demon realm might not have a place for them. So, the Four Elephant Palace actually has such a connection with the Heavenly Demon Mink clan? Zhou Yi's mind raced, and his arrogance quickly faded. The men behind him fell silent, and even the dullest among them could see that something was wrong with the situation. It seemed like things were not as simple as they had imagined. With the backing of the Heavenly Demon Mink clan, the Four Elephant Palace clearly did not need to pay special attention to a group of half-dead soldiers like them. Brother Zhou Yi, we know you have offended someone from the Nine Phoenix clan. Now, word has spread that they are planning to take action against you. But as long as you join the Four Elephant Palace, the Nine Phoenix clan won't dare to act recklessly. Brother Lindong himself is the punishment elder of the Dragon clan, appointed by the Dragon clan's leader personally. The Four Elephant Palace has the support of both the Dragon clan and the Heavenly Demon Mink clan, two of the four dominant clans. What can the Nine Phoenix clan do against that? The Heavenly Dragon Demon Commander spoke up with a smile at this point. Heavenly Demon Mink clan? Dragon clan? Zhou Yi and his companion exchanged a glance, their throats dry. The two most powerful clans in the Demon Beast world were standing behind the Four Elephant Palace. No wonder when Mang Mountain attacked the Beast Battle Domain, they had to retreat in disgrace. Even the Nine Phoenix clan behind them did not dare to make a move. I know you have a grudge with an elder from the Nine Phoenix clan. I can't guarantee anything, but I can tell you that if you want a chance for revenge while avoiding retaliation from the Nine Phoenix clan, the Four Elephant Palace may be one of your few options, Lindong said with a faint smile, watching Zhou Yi and the others' expressions shift. Of course, if you have no hatred for the people who uprooted your hard-built forces and hunted you down like dogs, then feel free to disregard what I've said. As Lindong's words fell, the expressions of Zhou Yi and his companion turned completely grim. There was a strong resentment burning in their eyes. They were top-tier powerhouses in the Western Sands region, yet they had been utterly humiliated, fleeing for shelter like beggars. For men with such pride, this was intolerable. This was no ordinary grudge. How could we forget? Zhou Yi gritted his teeth. My brother, and I will definitely turn that old dog into minced meat. Brother Lindong, I understand what you're implying. Previously, in the Four Elephant Palace, we were too arrogant. Please forgive us, and we hope you'll overlook our offenses. Zhou Yi clasped his fists and bowed deeply. At this moment, they had finally come to understand. If they wanted revenge, they had no choice but to join the Four Elephant Palace. Two of you, Lindong said, his gaze sharp. The Four Elephant Palace has strict rules. Once you join, you will be members of the Four Elephant Palace. If you don't follow the rules, you should be able to guess the consequences. Zhou Yi and his companion exchanged a glance, gritted their teeth, and nodded. Now, do you still want to become the leader of the Four Elephant Palace? Lindong interlaced his fingers and smiled faintly. Brother Lindong, you're joking? As long as you accept us, we would be deeply grateful and would not dare to have any other demands, Zhou Yi said with a bitter smile. Though there was still a trace of unwillingness in his heart, they no longer had the luxury to voice such demands. The Four Elephant Palace could do without them, but they could not afford to face the Nine Phoenix clan without the protection of the Four Elephant Palace. If you want to become the leader of the Four Elephant Palace, I can give you an opportunity. But whether you can seize it depends on your abilities. Lindong smiled slightly, his gaze looking down at the two of them. What opportunity? Zhou Yi and his companion looked up, their eyes burning with desire. Lindong slowly extended his hand and, to the astonishment of the Heavenly Dragon Demon Commander and the others, he gently gestured to the two of them. Come at me together and defeat me.